Tilehurst End podcast.
By Reading fans, for Reading fans.
Hello and welcome to the Tilehurst End podcast extra in association with the Working in Paper. My name is Olly Allen, your host once again for today's show. I'm delighted to be joined as ever by the Working in Paper's Tom Crocker. Tom, hi, how are you?
Morning, Ollie. Good, thank you. Should be a bit more positive today after a win and a couple of signings, hopefully. So yeah, it's been a good week.
Yeah, definitely the most positive podcast extra we've had in a while, certainly. We will get on to that win in just a little bit, but we will start by looking at the transfer window, which of course slammed shut at 11 p.m. last night. And it's been a busy week for Reading in transfer market since we last recorded, and there's been 2 in, 3 out in Berkshire. We'll start with the arrivals. So on Monday, Tommy Elphick arrived on loan until the end of the season from Aston Villa. And now this deal was done fairly quickly, I think, really, and there wasn't even a rumour about it when we recorded last week. But with 2 promotions on his CV and time as captain at Villa and Bournemouth and Brighton, he'll certainly bring lots of experience and hopefully some stability to that back line, Tom.
Yeah, he's a player I know fairly well from sort of covering and watching Bournemouth when he was up down there as captain. He's a brilliant character off the pitch, and I think when they got through as the month went on, they sort of needed players who could come in and be ready for a relegation battle, really. So he sort of fits the bill. I'm not sure they would have gone for him had McShane been fit. I think it's sort of a reaction to that, because it sounds like he could be out for a few weeks. So it's just another experienced head back there. And yeah, as I say, he's used to playing the way that he likes to play generally. Obviously with Bournemouth, that's the way they played and play out from the back. And he's just a real winner, really, and the sort of person that they need in the squad. He obviously came on, made his debut, and I imagine he'll be in the starting lineup fairly soon, you would have thought. So yeah, he's an experienced Championship player. He's played in the Premier League and fell out of favour a little bit at Villa when John Terry arrived, but there's no real... it's not really an issue, I don't think. I think that could have been quite likely with a lot of players. If John Terry arrives, your place is probably going to be under threat in the Championship. So yeah, it's a new start for him. He's probably got to try and prove himself a little bit. He's obviously got one eye to the summer and where he might have to move on after that. So he's got to perform in the next few months, and yeah, I think he's a good character and a good fit for the team, definitely.
Yeah, so certainly listened to his first interview on the Reading website. I could certainly tell he was definitely a leader and definitely someone who's going to hopefully bring some stability to the back line. And we heard Andrew Alderink last week speak about how he wanted to bring in players who are only fit for this relegation fight and what it really is now. And Elphick is certainly that, isn't he? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I'd say I don't remember if I said it on here last week, but I felt like they were going to really try and bring in a couple this week, and they've obviously done that. And yeah, I think the targets probably in December changed as the weeks went on, really, as they're probably focusing on maybe trying to push towards the top end. But as the results kept going wrong, they sliding towards the bottom 3, and it's as Andre said, really, it's pointless bringing in youngsters who are maybe not used to this level just to try and improve them. They've got to try and bring in people to make sure they get the points. So yeah, he certainly fits that bill, and I'm sure he was one that, like I say, when McShane was out, they were probably a little bit wary of just having Ilori and Blackett as potential centre-back backup. So I think they needed another body in, and like I say, I think he certainly fits the bill for that.
So then on deadline day, yesterday, of course, a loan move for Fulham's Chris Martin finally got over the line. It'd been rumoured for a couple of days and started to gather pace in the morning, I think. And it did look early in the window as if Chris Martin would be heading to Sunderland, but that wasn't a move that Martin himself was keen on, I think, because they're struggling, obviously, and Reading aren't doing too much better, but a slightly better position to be in. But he obviously scored against Reading back in November, and that was his only goal, actually, in his last 31 matches, meaning that perhaps form is a little concern, but if he can rediscover that, we've seen what he can do at the likes of Norwich, Fulham and Derby, and he could certainly get some goals to fire Reading up the table.
Yeah, I mean, he scored a few against Reading in the past. I think he's actually played more this season than I realised. I had a look back. I think he's played for 25 games for Derby this season, which he's sort of been in the squad every week up until the last couple of weeks. So it's not like he's out of practice, really. He's been involved in the squad, just not starting as many minutes and getting as many minutes as he would have liked. I mean, he's played for Scotland this year as well, so he's still on the international scene. And yeah, he's obviously rated by them, and just at Derby, it hasn't quite worked out from this season in terms of getting in the team. I mean, they've been doing really well, and it's hard to break in the team when the team's winning, I suppose. And yeah, I think he's a player that Reading have been linked with since sort of the start of the window, really. His name's been around, and then it looked like you say, he might be going to Sunderland. But I think that he said himself they had a lot of offers to look at, and Reading turned out to be the one. Obviously, it tends to go right down to the wire, these sort of deals, and Reading have been looking for a striker ever since the summer, really. So it's certainly one that will please a few people, get a bit more of excitement maybe back. And yeah, he's a player who can score goals. Like you say, it's just one goal all season, which is obviously the bit of a worry. But You have to hope if he starts starting regularly, he can start banging in the goals again. Obviously, he had a pretty good relationship, I think, with Shawnee Luca at Fulham last year, so hopefully that might bring a bit more out of him as well. I think it's just the sort of signing Reading needed. They needed a striker, and they've gone out and got one, so we'll just have to see what he can do at the weekend now. I think he sort of said on his interviews yesterday he might not be ready for 90 minutes just yet, but I'm sure he'll get a couple of starts soon enough, and he'll be back in the swing of things, I'm sure.
Yeah, what do you think this means for the likes of for the chances? Of Kermorgan and Bodvarsson? Do you think we could see Jaap Stam sort of start to go with two up front more often, like he has done in the last couple of games?
I think it's quite possible. Obviously, it's worked on Tuesday, and I think Jan's struggling for form and for goals really. So it'd be hard to take Bodvarsson out of the team at the moment. He's obviously had a couple of good days recently, and I mean, you look at it and you say if he's only going to play one up front, then you've probably got a few too many, maybe, but I think for the next few weeks, he should be sticking with the system that's been getting him the results. And maybe as the season goes on, he might try and revert back to his sort of preferred style. But I think right now it seems to be working with two up front. And you would look at it on the face of it and say maybe Martin and Bodvarsson could work together, and that could possibly be what we see on Saturday. So I would say he's got to come in and fight for his place like the rest of them. He's not, like you say, not been prolific this season, so he's not guaranteed to start straight away, I don't think necessarily, but I don't think there's any reason why he can't play with one of those two or up front on his own. I think he's a good option to have, definitely.
As for departures then, and on Monday we saw Adrian Popper completed a loan move to Saudi Arabian side Al Tuwan. That's probably how you say it, I'm not quite sure. But we spoke briefly about him last week. And whilst it's certainly a move that makes sense for Popper himself, obviously he'll get more opportunities out on loan. But I, for one, I think we spoke briefly about this last week, that we perhaps would have liked to see him get more of a chance here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think he's been someone that's been spoken about obviously a lot over the last few weeks when Reading have been losing, and he's been scoring for the under-23s. But if he's not going to get in the team now, then he's not going to get in the team very often. You don't think, if he can't get in when the team's losing, and doesn't seem to particularly fancy him at the moment. And like you say, a loan move's good for him. Whether he comes back in the summer and fights for places, you have to say it's unlikely. If Jaap Stam's still here as the manager, you have to say it's unlikely because he hasn't been playing too much. So I think he's been here for a year and played 16 games or something like that, which obviously is nowhere near enough for him. So this is a good move for him. He obviously started well, got an assist straight away when he came on the other night, and it's just a player that he hasn't featured too much for Reading. So it's one that's obviously got off the wage bill as well, which might have allowed them to bring in Chris Martin possibly. You've got to look at it like that, and that's probably how they were thinking as well.
I mean, it does seem slightly strange considering that Stam himself signed him last January. It was the 30th of January last year that he signed, and he's not really played him that much. So unless something that's gone on behind the scenes, or whether perhaps it wasn't Stam signing, it was more of an owner's signing, I'm not too sure. But as we mentioned there, he's still got 2 years left on this contract, so we might not have seen the last of Popper just yet. But someone we have seen the last of is Roy Behrens, who completed a permanent move to Vitesse Arnhem on deadline day. This one came fairly out of the blue, I think, really, and I think Vitesse needed a quick replacement after selling Milot Rashica to Werder Bremen. Was this quite a sudden move? Yeah, absolutely. It did come out of the blue. I think he's been, ever since Jaap signed him, Roy Behrens has been in the team more often than not, really, to the fans' annoyance quite often. But it sort of surprised me. I'm not as down on Behrens as some other people. I think the last few months his form has really dipped. And I think he struggled to. I think when Reading are playing well, he tends to play better, and when it's going badly, he's not perhaps the guy you need in the team for that. And I think he's suffered as a result. And in the last couple of months, he hasn't really been in the side as much. He's been, he was injured as well, in fairness, but the only starts he's really been getting have been in the cup, and he obviously prefers. He spent a lot of money on Luco, and Barry's in decent form, so they're the sort of preferred two. And it's just worked out for Behrens. I mean, I think he's got a 3.5-year contract, and he's sort of 31, I think. So that's a big deal for him, and you can see why he might have fancied that going back to Holland. And it certainly did come out of the blue. And you look at it now, and they've lost Popper and Behrens and not really brought anyone in. So it's suddenly you're looking at the wingers, and you think maybe they haven't got quite as many as they did before. But you've obviously still got McCleary as well, and maybe if Harriet comes back into the fold, and the guys that I've mentioned already. So they have still got options there, but it certainly surprised me, and it seems like a strange one on the face of it. But it's obviously they've probably got a little bit of money for him as well, which could go a long way. So
I think that's the sort of probably thinking behind that, and maybe Roy wanted to move himself. But yeah, he certainly seemed like someone Yap really liked, so it was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I think to be honest, it is fairly and on the whole a good move for Reading. I think Bieran's already started 9 league games this season. He turned 30 in December and was probably on fairly high wages considering that he moved from Hertha Berlin in December 2016. He did score some crucial goals though last season for Reading. Let's not forget that. He bagged winners against Huddersfield, Sheffield Wednesday, Fulham and Brentford. So he did have a knack of popping up with some vital goals, but I think he's really sort of gone missing too often.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at the start of last season, I thought I was really impressed with him, to be fair. And I think as the season wore on, I'm trying to remember now, I think he sort of dropped out the side a little bit towards the end of the season when Lewis Grabban was playing instead. And he's, like I say, I think he started really well and just seems to have dipped a little bit. And like you say, I think it's just a good move for all parties. He seems to have probably past his peak for Reading now, and he wasn't looking like recapturing that sort of early form. And so you say he turned 30 in December. He's got a big contract now. It's a good move for him. And like I say, Reading get some of the wages off the wage bill and get a little bit of transfer fee for him as well. So I think it should work out for everyone. It's obviously like I say, it came as a surprise, but I think it just works out for everyone really.
Overall, then, how would you assess Reading's business in this transfer window? So to recap, we've seen Tommy Elphick and Chris Martin coming on loan, and then Josh Barrett, Adrian Popper, George Legg also left yesterday. They all left on loan, and then Rob Dickey and Roy Bierens left permanently.
Yeah, I think like I touched on earlier, the sort of targets changed as the month went on, and the messages we were getting changed. They wanted to bring in some players at the start, and then they sort of discovered that maybe not discovered, but Yap discovered that they didn't have the funds that maybe he thought they did, and suddenly you're looking at it and thinking they're not really going to be bringing too many in, so then obviously expectations sort of drop. But when you sort of weigh it all up at the end, they've obviously got rid of Popper off the bill, who wasn't really playing much, and they brought in a couple of guys who you'd like to think would be able to keep them in the league. So I think it's been a decent window really. They've got the striker that they've been looking for as well, which is obviously something that had they not brought Chris Martin in, I think people would have still been saying, well, where are the goals going to come from? And that question would have carried on. But now they've got that deal over the line. I think it turns it into a pretty decent window. Obviously, they haven't spent any money in it, but if there isn't any there ready to spend, there's no point in spending it on people that aren't really going to improve the team. So they haven't really wasted much in that respect. And like I said, they've moved a couple on, and I think the squad is certainly good enough to stay in the league, which has to be the main aim now. So yeah, you look at those two that have come in are good enough to go straight to the side. So in that sense, they've strengthened the team, which I don't think you can really complain about.
Yeah, I certainly think the squad looks a lot better now than it did at the start of January. I'm certainly a lot more confident of surviving relegation. Perhaps the only other addition we may have expected, a couple of rumours throughout the month, was perhaps another left-back on loan. That didn't happen.
Yeah, I'd say there's plenty of names going around for that, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens there now. I mean, obviously, if Omar Richards, whether he'll get a run in the team or if he'll stick with sort of Bakuna, Gunter as fullbacks or Blackett there occasionally, it's a gap in the team that nobody really knows from week to week who's going to be playing there. So I think we've mentioned before, it's Omar Richards had a chance to grab it, and obviously he's still here at the club. He hasn't been loaned out or anything, so he's still got that chance to take that spot, which I think many fans would like to see him give him a run there. I think I think he could do a job there definitely, but. They were certainly looking for a left back. There's plenty of names that Yap said they were interested in at some point, but just couldn't get that deal done. Just one more point on the window. I think it's a massive boost that they managed to keep hold of Liam Moore as well, which obviously didn't look too likely at the start of the month. So that obviously went quiet in the last couple of weeks. Perhaps Reading benefited from losing every week. That might have put some people off maybe, which could work out in their benefit in the long run. But it's great to keep hold of him, and it's just one less problem that it looked like they might have had at the start of the window. So, yeah, I think overall, apart from maybe a left back, you look at it and go that the team's in pretty good shape, and there's people who can fill in at left back, and we've seen that this season. So I don't think that shouldn't be a huge problem, hopefully. Yeah,
so I think if you'd asked Reading fans at the start of the window what their biggest worry was, it would definitely be losing Liam Moore. So that's an issue that we didn't have to deal with, fortunately. So back to matters on the pitch then, and on Tuesday night, Reading finally ended their long-awaited wait for a championship victory by beating Burton Albion 3-1. John Daddy Bonvasa continued his good run of form with 2 goals. There was also an incredibly rare goal for Chris Gunter, who curved one in from outside the box in a move straight off the training ground. Now, as ever, it is important not to get too carried away, as I'm sure there will be much tougher tests ahead than Burton, but we've been speaking about it for weeks. It's just important to get that win, and I'm sure that will have provided the squad with a massive boost in confidence.
Yeah, you'd like to hope so. It's been a long old while since they last won a league game. Yeah, like you say, we've been here plenty of times this season before, and they haven't managed to back up a win with another one. But yeah, I think you've got to take it in as confident at the moment. I mean, it's been so long since they got the win, and on Tuesday night, obviously they got the early lead. They were playing well, and then conceded a penalty. And we've seen it before where they've sort of not been able to recover from that, but they managed to get the goal back straight away and get back in front straight away. And it was a really good finish from Chris Gunter, and obviously went over and celebrated with the Yap as well, which took all the sort of headlines really. But and then Bodvarsson again, a couple of great play from Bacuna and Barrow for those 2 goals. So he's in the right place, and hopefully if he can, I think he's probably got more goals now than he managed last season, definitely. So he seems to have found the goal trail, which is brilliant. And yeah, it's just happier times around everywhere. I think now that they've got a win, and if they can follow it up with another one on Saturday, things will suddenly, as we said before, they suddenly look a lot better in this league. And the teams below them, they've got a catch rating now. I think it's 6 points to the bottom 3 maybe now. It's still 18th, but I think there's 6 points now, which is obviously a little bit more breathing room. It's just a massive confidence booster to finally get over the line and suffer the disappointment of losing your lead and getting it back again. I think is a big confidence booster as well.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Gunter's celebration. I think if you wanted any evidence that the players are still right behind Jaap Stam, you only need to look at that, don't you?
Yeah, like I say, I don't think that's particularly been in doubt from the players' side, really. I think they've always been, most of them have been there from last year and seen what he did last year. So especially Gunter, obviously Reading were in a similar position when Jaap took over, and he saw how high that he took them last year. So yeah, he's always been one that's, I think he said he's the best club manager he's ever worked with. So it wasn't a huge surprise maybe to see that. But yeah, like we say, hopefully if they can get another win now, and then you try and hopefully start ticking these results off, and suddenly things calm down a little bit around the place, and Jaap hopefully tries to rebuild. So I think many people not too happy with, or they're calling for Jaap to go. I think that they would love to see him turn it around, really, based on what they did last year. You know, that he's trying to do things his way, and it's not been going as well this year. And obviously some of his comments have riled some fans, but I think in general they still do remember what happened last year. And if he can just try and steady the ship and a little bit, I don't think anyone would have been too disappointed at sort of a mid-table finish at the start of the season. So if they can turn that around and do the same now, I think that would just make most people just calm things down and just keep him going along, keep him happy as well. So hopefully, Saturday I think is a big one again. If they lose again, it will suddenly turn. But yeah, it's just a huge result on Tuesday night, I think.
Yeah, I haven't hidden the way I feel about Jaap Stam, and I've said in the past that I'm not sure he's quite the right man to take running forward, but as I said, more than anything else, I just want the club to succeed, and certainly if Stam can turn it around, and then all the better. And as we touched on briefly earlier, Stam played 2 up front for the second game in a row, which does suggest that he's beginning to adapt. We have seen this a couple of times before this season, and I think it was against Leeds that he played 4-4-2 and then reverted to type. So do you think that this is sort of another experiment, or do you think he's starting to perhaps learn and perhaps change his tactics?
Yeah, I think he's always learning, really. I think when it's his first season in management really last year, and obviously it was all going so well, and you see a different side to managers when it's not going so well, and he's trying as hard as he can to try and turn it around, and it hasn't been going right. So I don't think he's quite stubborn in some respects, but I think also he realises that he's not been in this situation before really as a player either, to be honest, down in the bottom end of the table, and it's just all a big learning curve for him, which obviously if he can do that whilst Reading aren't in massively in the relegation fight, that would be a lot better. But I think he's still wedded to the idea of sort of 4-3-3 and his way of playing, but he's well aware that they need results at the moment, and this is the way they're getting results. So obviously, I guess the ideal situation would be get a couple more wins like this, and then try and slowly move back towards his preferred style when the pressure is off a little bit. Obviously, it was such a high pressure game on Tuesday; they just had to get the win. However, really, if they had lost at Burton, I think it would have been. I think Saturday could have been sort of the final chance, maybe, because they probably would have gone into the bottom 3 if they'd lost both of those games. So yeah, they've got the job done on Tuesday, and I suspect he'll stick with a similar sort of style on Saturday to try and do the same. And then maybe if they move up a couple of places, he might try and work his way back into how he wants to play, because he's got the players there to play the 4-3-3 generally. So I think that's still in his mind. But at the moment, he knows he's not stupid. He knows he needs to get results. However, so I think yeah, I think he'll stick with this for now, obviously, as it's worked so well on Tuesday.
Yeah. Keen-eared listeners probably would have realised we haven't talked about the defeat at Hillsborough last Friday, and perhaps I'm not really sure I want to go too much in depth about it. And I'm a little disappointed to be out of the FA Cup. Of course, we've seen some great cup runs in the last 10 years or so, but looking at the grand scheme of things, I think sort of Yapstam sort of may have seen the focus very much now on staying in this division. And I'd also perhaps suggest that the defeat would have been talked about a lot more had we not won on Tuesday.
Yeah, definitely. It's sort of, with the transfers as well and the Tuesday result, it's sort of faded away a little bit. But yeah, I think they, in terms of that game, I think they had started okay. I mean, Dave Edwards probably should have scored, put them 1-0 up, and then you never know, really. And then it's just awful defending, really, for all 3 goals. I think, especially the second one, McCleary's just, I don't know what he was doing, loses the ball, and then it's put across and 2-0 up, and you know Reading aren't going to come back from that. And the third goal's a total mix-up as well. So yeah, it's a shame though, because I say they started fairly well. I think they had a few decent chances, and I think Sheffield Wednesday, I think in the next round they're at home to Notts County or Swansea, so it could have been a chance for Reading. That, like we say, the draw does tend to open up in these cups when you get through sort of 5th round and suddenly you're in the quarterfinals. But as I say, it's not meant to be, and I think everyone would have probably preferred the win on Tuesday. So that's just eased a lot of pressure, and hopefully now they can just move away from the bottom 3 and just try and enjoy the season a little bit more.
Moving on to this weekend, then it's not, as we mentioned a minute ago, it's not a crucial game for Reading as they host Millwall, who currently sit 3 points from 4 places ahead of the Royals in 14th. They've lost just once in their last 6 games, and as much as a win here would be huge for Reading, I think Millwall have certainly become a very tough team to beat, and they've conceded just 33 goals, which is the best defensive record in the bottom half. So certainly it might not be as easy on paper as perhaps a home game against Millwall sounds. No,
I'd say they've like I say, picked up a bit of form. I think obviously they beat Reading early this season as well, but it is a home game that Reading will look at. I think they can definitely win it. I don't think Millwall will travel too well. I think they got an away win at Leeds in that crazy game a couple of weeks ago, 4-3. But apart from that, I don't think they've won hardly any away from home this season. They pick up nearly all their points at home, so that'll be something Reading will be looking at. I'm sure they'll certainly say it's a winnable game, but Millwall they'll certainly be up for the battle, and Reading will have to show what they did on Tuesday night, be up for the fight again. And yeah, it is a big game, because if we've seen it before, they win a game and then they lose straight away. So if the Burton game is followed up by a defeat at home to Millwall, then suddenly we'll be looking at the table again. It could be sort of 3 or 4 points to the bottom 3, and obviously the window's shut, so they can't get anyone in, and it'll be a worrying time again. So I think it is perhaps just as big as Tuesday. Really, they've got to sort this home form out as well. This has been poor for most of the season, and if they are going to sort of stay up and not get dragged into it, they need to start winning games at home. So yeah, it's a big one, I think, and it's a winnable one. But like I say, Millwall have picked up a bit of form, so I think it's going to be quite tight, as nearly all the games seem to be at the Madstad this season.
Yeah, I don't think we've won a Saturday 3 p.m. home game since last season. I don't think. Against Wigan. Yeah, so the Millwall's key men, you've got the likes of George Saville. He scored twice as Millwall beat Reading at the Den back in September, and Jed Wallace as well. But I'd imagine most eyes will probably be on veteran Tim Cahill, who returned to the club after 14 years away. And I'm not entirely sure if he'll start, but he'll certainly have the entire away support behind him if he does come on, or if he does start, and that's certainly something for Reading to look out for.
Yeah, absolutely. I say I'm like you. I'm not too sure if he's fit to start. It'd be a bit of a surprise to come straight in and start, maybe. But even if he's just there, I think on the bench, or if he comes on, it'll obviously be a massive thing for them. He's a sort of a legend there, and it was one of the biggest stories of the window, really. I think them managing to bring him back. So yeah, he'll certainly be one to watch out for, and it's sort of written in the stars maybe that he comes on and does something, but hopefully not. Like I said, they've got a few decent players as well, the ones you mentioned. They've obviously got Jake Cooper will come back as well, and he played quite well, I think, in the game, and they've got players who can cause problems, definitely, but I think if you look at it on paper, Reading's team will be just as good, if not better, than Millwall, so they've just got to sort out the home form, like I say, and Tuesday felt like a really big win for everyone, and you've got to hope that they can show that and play with a bit more freedom. I think that's been the problem at home. They've sort of been afraid to maybe take risks maybe a little bit, but now they've got the monkey off their back of not having the win. They've got that confidence from Tuesday. You have to hope that they can get off to a decent start and just build from there. Really. I think their team's good enough to beat Millwall, and they've got to go out there and show it at home, which they haven't managed to do for much of this season, and finally get that Saturday home win, which has been a long, long time.
Definitely, yeah. So as for Reading, then are we expected to see new signings, Elphick and Martin, in the starting lineup? Obviously, we saw Elphick come on and play half an hour or so against Burton on Tuesday.
Yeah, I would imagine he would start. Obviously, it's interesting one because you've got Thiago Laurie, who has been playing, and you don't want to sort of stop his development, but sort of a home game against Millwall, you'd imagine Elphick, you say he came on the other day, you would imagine he would start alongside Liam Moore at the back. That would be my sort of hunch on that one. As for Martin, yeah, I think, like you say, he said himself, he's not sure if he's got 90 minutes in him just yet, just because he hasn't played 90 minutes for such a while. But so I think he might well start him and then take him off possibly. I think it would just give the whole place a lift if there's a new striker starting for one. And I think it just sort of depends how he does this week, I suppose, in the next couple of days. But yeah, he'll certainly he'll play. You'd imagine come on for half an hour at least, or if not start and play maybe an hour and come off. But yeah, I think there's a quite a high chance that both of them will start actually.
Injury-wise, then, is it the same as last week with McShane, Swift and Richards all out? We saw Liam Kelly didn't actually make the squad for the trip to Burton, but was that simply a case of him just being dropped?
Yeah, I think that was just a selection thing. I don't think there's any injury with Liam Kelly, which is obviously one to keep an eye on, really. I suppose if they've changed the system, there's one less spot in midfield, so that's probably the thinking there. They need, I was trying to think, Dave Edwards and was it Joey played, I think, on Tuesday? And and George Evans as well, yeah. So that's probably just the thinking there. And as for the injuries, yeah, say McShane's going to be out for a few weeks longer than the other two. Swift, they're not going to rush him at all after what's been happening with him all season. Richards, I think, isn't as bad. I think he was only really brought off as a precaution generally when he went off initially. He's obviously missed a couple of games since, but yeah, I don't think he's too bad. So I think there's a chance possibly he could be involved. But as for Swift and McShane, I think they'll be missing this one, yeah.
In terms of the prediction league, then, I'm pleased to report you now have a very impressive 6-point lead at the top of the prediction league table after correctly predicting that Reading would beat Burton on Tuesday. What are you going to go for this weekend?
Yeah, I'll stick with another win, I think. Try and stay positive, and I'll go 2-1 Reading. I could see it being a draw. I think they'll get something out of it, Reading. But yeah, I'll still go for 2-1 to Reading.
Yeah, I think I was speaking to Mark, and he was saying that you're by far the most optimistic out of everyone in the prediction league, and for some reason that's worked. That despite the fact that Reading haven't been doing too well this season, so
I'll try. I did say they'd lose to Brentford as well. In fairness,
that's
so
true. Yeah,
probably helped me out a little bit, but yeah, I'll try to be positive at least.
Yeah, I think I'm going to probably stick with you. I might go for 1-0 Reading. To be honest, I think obviously we talked about how Millwall don't concede many goals, but hopefully maybe a Chris Martin winner perhaps to give Reading the 1-0 win. As we come to the end of the show, then, what can we expect to see on the working in paper in the coming days, Tom?
Yes, obviously we've got the sort of reaction to the transfers the last couple of days. Been really busy, obviously, with the game as well, and just a look ahead to Saturday, and then we'll be at the Manchester on Saturday, so we'll have all the action from there and post match and all that. We'll be on Wokingham.today, and we've got Simeon's column as well is going back up on probably tomorrow. Look back at the Burton game, and like what we mentioned, really how it could be a huge confidence booster. So that'll be going up as well, and I'll put it up on Twitter. That's at Tom J Crocker for that as well.
Fantastic stuff. As ever, stay tuned to the Tilehurst End and all our social media channels. We're chock-a-block on content at the moment. We've got pieces on Elphick and Martin from Bournemouth and Villa fans and Fulham and Derby fans, respectively, sort of giving their views on those signings and how good they could be for Reading, and that's particularly worth a read. As ever, thank you very much for Tom for joining me this morning.
Thanks, Ollie. Cheers.
No worries, and we will be back next week to hopefully look back on a second consecutive win, round up all the latest Reading FC news, and preview the long trip up to Middlesbrough next weekend. But until then, thank you very much for listening, and come on you R's.
Get social with the boys.
Find them on Twitter
at the Tilehurst End
and facebook.com/the Tilehurst End.